So this is WRPL. It's what we're watching, reading, playing, and listening to. All things we are consuming. My name's Ben.
And I'm Steven.
And we're just going to kind of talk to each other and catch up on all the things that we are watching, reading, listening, and playing.
Excellent.
I did that backwards. Playing, listening.
Well, that's part of the whirlpool, baby.
It just mixes up.
Yeah, we might start with watching one day. We might start with listening. Who knows? Yeah. So now, do you want to go like you go do one, I do one, or do you want to like rapid fire everyone and then we just get to the main topic? How would you like to start?
I think we play it by ear, but you could just start with something and give me your 2 cents, and I'll do the same.
All right. Well, the last thing I watched, besides the main topic today, which is Space Jam.
A New Legacy.
A New Legacy, yes. And I'm currently, in honor of that movie, wearing the Toon Squad, the original, not the New Jersey.
Not the new one. But I don't mind the new one.
I actually like the new one a lot.
Good colors.
Yeah, good colors. And I saw a picture of, like, Jordan and LeBron standing next to each other, and, like, the fit on Jordan is very 90s, and it's like a little bit baggier. It's not as tight as like it is on LeBron, and just like it looks dated. Where this new one, I think, actually looks pretty great.
Yeah, I agree.
But anyway,
we'll get to that.
we'll get to all that later. I watched Disney Pixar's Luca. I thought it was really cute. However, I didn't think it really hit any emotional highs for me like other Pixar movies has. Like it really didn't like touch me in my heart pieces. But visually, once again, with everything Pixar, it looked great. I had a nice time watching it. Other than that, I just thought it was kind of, for me at least, middle of the road for Pixar. B minus.
Okay. I also saw Luca, and I was surprised at how much I liked it. I thought it was going to be kind of stupid. But I love that it is a very low-stakes movie. It's not an end-of-the-world thing. It's not life or death. It's just 3 kids want to do a bike race because they love their scooter so much. I really enjoyed the villain. I thought because he's not some huge cackling evil monster of a person, he's just like a shitty douchey kid who thinks he's better than everyone. And I really loved the animation because even though, it's pretty Pixar standard, it kind of had like the Wallace and Gromit mouth look for everyone. It was just a little different than normal. It's like they didn't try to focus on hyper-realization and they wanted to have a style of their own. And so I thought it was quite a good-looking movie with good voice casts and low stakes. Makes for an entertaining movie.
I will also say that the, spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen it.
This podcast there's no spoiler warning. We'll mention what we're going to talk about. If you don't want to hear anything about it, touch it.
But spoiler warning, one of the characters lives in like an abandoned tower. It's awesome. Yeah. I would happily own like a little mini private island just off the coast of the main town, and I just think that's so cool. Like as a kid, that would be the dream scenario. Like you and your buddies can like sneak off to this private place and just have like this abandoned rickety tower that's just for you guys that like overlooks like not only the sea but like the stars and everything. It's awesome. And the whole time it's just like I want to be in this world just to live there.
Yeah.
So
all right,
how about you?
I have been watching more movies than anything. I'm trying to like get through 30 Rock right now. That's like my show I haven't watched to completion, but that's like 7-8 seasons of 24 episodes a season. It's a long one, so I'm on season 3 of that right now.
So who's your favorite character on 30 Rock so far?
There's only actually there could be multiple answers. Everyone's really good in the show, but it's Kenneth. Kenneth is the best.
For sure.
He's the funniest, and it's like I can't see anybody else playing that role because it would be a completely different role. Because so much of who Kenneth is comes out of the actor. He's absolutely fantastic, and I never loved Tracy Morgan in general, but I never really had anything against him. But he's really funny in this, and what's her name? Jenna. Yeah, the character Jenna Maroney is so great. She's like really underused, I think, in some episodes. Like you don't see her at all, whereas someone like Lutz will be in almost every single episode, but then Jenna just won't be there. But yeah, I'm really liking 30 Rock. I've had no complaints. Okay, actually one complaint. Season 3, episode 2 is not available on Amazon. the other episodes of the seasons, I didn't look at all seasons, but that one particular episode where I guess Tina Fey sits next to Oprah on an airplane, not available. You can't even buy it.
It's not the blackface episode? That might be why.
Maybe
Because I
that's
know
why.
they pulled stuff recently.
Damn, Oprah was in a blackface episode?
Maybe.
And she didn't pull it years ago?
I feel like I've seen the Oprah episode, but that was a while ago, so I don't remember, if that was in fact the one.
I think I saw it too, because after watching season 1, I had remembered pretty much all of that, and then there's been a lot of episodes in 2 and 3 that I have remembered, but not all of them. So, yeah, I don't know if I've just been catching this stuff on TV or whatever, but
Right.
I never sat down to actually watch it. But, so yeah, I'm getting through that.
Real quick on that, back to what you're saying, like, everyone's great. I think what maybe isn't talked about enough, or maybe, I didn't watch 30 Rock when it was first on, but I think that's just a testament to, like, writing for specific people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think, like, Tina Fey definitely knew through SNL and, everything, living in New York with Jenna and Tracy and all those people, it's like, she knew what their strengths were and wrote specifically for that, and that's why everyone on that show excels. It's not like she wrote a character and then these people like came along and just are saying the lines. Like, these are characters that she like crafted with these people in mind, which I think is one of her best features as a writer.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. All right, what else you got?
I watched Black Widow.
Okay.
We've briefly talked about it a little bit, and I think I liked it more than you did. I had a good time. I think Florence Pugh was great. I think what's his face, Red Guardian, David Harbour. David Harbour, yeah. I think he was a lot of fun, and I liked this sort of like I fought Captain America and all this other stuff. But I think he wasn't even alive.
Frozen yet.
Yeah.
But with time travel and multi dimensions and stuff, we don't know. Maybe it wasn't Steve Rogers Captain America. Maybe it was something else. We have no idea. Like, Steve went back in time to live out his life with Peggy. Maybe he fought him when he was like 60 years old. And, it could have been something of him just going through the timeline, and he's like, "Oh, Captain America."
Yeah. The villain, I saw the twist coming from like this.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, like the scene where they're describing like this thing that Black Widow did. I was just like, okay, like I'm 80% sure that that's the villain, and then maybe 30 minutes later I was like, okay, it's definitely the villain, because they keep kind of talking about it. It's got to amount to something.
I didn't see it coming until right before. Once they're about to unmask Taskmaster, it's hard to say, unmask Taskmaster. It like came to me, and I've seen other people say online that they assumed, the guy that was helping Black Widow get her planes and stuff like that it would have been him. He knew where she was at all times, can get this stuff, and I didn't think of that at all. Yeah, that guy, as soon as he left the screen, I totally forgot about him.
Yeah, it never occurred to me, especially since, like, I mean, part of me when the movie first started, I thought maybe there would be some connection to previous Marvel stuff. That it was like, okay, this is a character that we've run into before, and but yeah, when I saw that guy, I was just like, and they've kind of established like, oh, they've had an ongoing relationship. I was like, who the hell is this guy? Like, why? So like, if he was the villain, I thought it would have been like out of left field versus someone who like is established more. But and also I think the problem with like me kind of guessing who the villain was they had the actress's name in the title. And I was like, okay, I haven't seen her for 2 hours of this movie. We're getting towards the end. It's got to be her.
Yeah, I just assumed it was like, oh, she must be one of the other widows, and she'll have a more prominent fight scene or something. Yeah, and I kind of put it out of my brain, but yeah, that was not smart of them.
Yeah, because I feel like they're pretty good about that kind of thing, is like putting that at the end. But I could be wrong. So,
what about Ray Winstone? What'd you think of him as a villain?
I mean, I'd say a solid fan of Ray Winstone. Like, I've seen a lot of stuff he's in, and I think he's great in all of it. I think his accent might have been kind of weird, but like, it just seems like they could have really put any actor in that role, and it would have been essentially the same. He is a very like menacing looking dude, and he has played menacing characters for many years.
Beowulf.
Yeah. So I think he was fine, but he certainly wasn't like a selling point. of the movie for me in any regard. So like the weakest part of this movie, I believe, is the villains, even though I think the idea of a villain who can mimic, let's say, superhero abilities is pretty cool. So yeah, I mean, I like that aspect of the villain. It's just like your villain also didn't speak at all, which can be cool, but often it's just like, it doesn't, you're not really rooting for, you want to kind of root for the villains a little bit, and you have no reason to, other than
you don't know who this person is.
Yeah, you have no idea who it is until the very end. It's like, well, if I knew who you were from the get-go, maybe I could root for you, or not necessarily root for you, but like understand why you are the villain of this movie. So
yeah, I also liked Black Widow, but I wasn't super impressed with really anything. I like David Harbour, I like Florence Pugh, and it's kind of sad that Scarlett Johansson kind of becomes like the third important person in her own movie, and it's more of her just kind of like leading them along, and it's not really about her. So that's a shame. When I left the theater, it was like, well, there's nothing that I hate about this. There's nothing that stands out like this is pure trash, but there was nothing that stood out like this is one of the best things I've seen Marvel do, and not even close. So if I was going to rate it, I'd probably give it a C+, and I'd say it's like smack dab in the middle of most Marvel. I'd rather watch this than Black Panther or Captain Marvel, but give me any of the Captain America movies over this any day. And then this is very much like a Winter Soldier-y kind of story anyways, and someone from my past and who's like family to me. And not that I would want Florence Pugh to be brainwashed, but it may have been more interesting. Like their little gunfight, like why did they even have that fight? They're supposed to be family, and
because they needed an action scene.
Yeah, absolutely. But if it was somehow Black Widow got a hold of this mist thing and saw that her sister had become this mindless killing machine, and there was nothing there, she couldn't even recognize her just being controlled, and so they could have that fight scene, and then she releases her, and then everything comes back to her, and she's haunted about all the things she did, because like she's aware in her brain the whole time, but she can't stop herself because she's being mind controlled. And then you kind of have to get the family back together to maybe stop all these Black Widows who are planted within other governments that he shows, and then you have Taskmaster like coming after them to stop them, because Taskmaster should have been the person who trained everybody. I mean, how you have someone who can learn moves instantly and they're just your bodyguard? That person should have been the leader of the Red Room. I think we could have had a more interesting spy movie. Have something that's closer to a Mission Impossible or a Bourne or something like that, and this is just an action movie. I want to see her doing her espionage stuff, because we always see like, oh, she's tied up to a chair, she must have been involved with something, and then she gets out of it. Oh, she's keeping secrets from Steve Rogers by downloading this information off a computer. Oh, she's up to no good. But we never see a full story of her doing these things.
And I think a big part of that that's kind of disappointing, is just like all of like her spy stuff that she does do is with like this crazy technology, like the face mask stuff or whatever. It's just like, okay, so her spy stuff is essentially things that are just assumingly made up for the movie. I mean, there could be government secrets that I don't know about, and like all this technology could very well exist. And like, yeah, in Mission Impossible movies they also have like a face thing, but like watching that in 3, where like you see it like getting made, is all very like interesting. It's like, okay, like this thing takes time, and it's like, believe it's not just like a hologram that's just like that matches everything. So I don't know, it just works a little bit better in Mission Impossible. But Mission Impossible definitely does the spy thing right in terms of like, but also making it fun.
Absolutely.
So
do I have anything else about Black Widow?
We don't want to run too long on Black Widow.
Sure, but I mean, there's just like some dumb shit that really annoyed me, like the sever the nerve in her nose so she can't smell as far. Like, I don't mind the pheromone stuff because that's mind controlled. Like, that stuff would be planted in. I think that stuff's kind of smart. But like, she can't put cotton up her nose. She can't hold her breath for a bit. Can't breathe through her mouth for a while. Like, I guess I don't know how pheromones work, but she like smashes her face on the table, breaks her nose, resets it, gets her ass kicked by him, falls out of a exploding helicarrier type thing, and then like she lands on the ground. She doesn't even have like that little red mark that you show to indicate that that person did have a black nose. No black eye. I'm not black nose. Broken nose. No black eyes. And she's just like beautiful. Her hair's a little tousled or whatever. And it's just like that stuff kind of takes me out sometimes. Like, I know she's a superhero, but she got rocked in the face like 4 times by Ray Winstone.
Yeah. I mean, it's one PG-13 and the Disneyfication, and like sure. I get it. Like, you want your stars to like look pretty for, you know, posters and stuff. Mm-hmm. Especially someone like Scarlett Johansson, who's just like, she's Scarlett Johansson. Yeah. But my bigger issue is like, I get that, but this character is human. Mm-hmm. Like 100%. I mean, there are lots of heroes in the MCU are human, but like these action movies, they're doing these things like, all right, Thor might get hurt by that. Mm-hmm. You should be dead by that. Yeah. So it's just like when these people like just don't even ever seem to be injured, even after like all the crazy stuff, or they just kind of like walk with a limp a little bit, but they're just like, all right, see you tomorrow. Yeah. And then like the next scene, they're just like, fine. You know, fine.
I took a nap, so I'm good.
Yeah, yeah. It's a little bit like, come on, like let's have a hero movie where like they take some damage at least.
Mm-hmm. Like Florence Pugh stabs that woman in the stomach and like twists it, and it's like, ooh, that was pretty brutal.
Yeah, I was surprised by that.
No blood. She's got a little wet shirt. Whoop-de-doo. Scarlett Johansson falls from a building and like hits a bunch of like ventilation things and hits the ground. Gets up, has a little limp. It's fine. They get into a car accident. Like the car explodes from underneath, gets flipped upside down, goes down some stairs and stuff, and they're just like walking out of it. No big deal. It's like Fast and Furious, where Vin Diesel has rolled his car multiple times and has had no lasting effect. Side note, that would be kind of fun for a Fast and Furious movie where he's at the doctor's to get a checkup or whatever, and he has like all these hairline fractures. He's had like 7 concussions and stuff.
It's just the scene from The Dark Knight Rises. It's like
well, there's a scene in Venture Brothers where like Brock was getting fixed, and they're like pulling out like 6 bullets, a shark tooth, 3 arrowheads, and just like, yeah, they've just been in there for a while. But that'd be kind of fun to see. Like, well, yeah, you rolled your car after Tarzan swinging over a canyon. You're gonna have some issues, and then maybe he's not a good driver anymore. You know?
Yeah. Fast and the Furious 11 or whatever should end with like Dom and the rest of the family like all in a like old folks home, just like unable to like move or feed themselves just because like they grew old, they got out of the game, but their bodies have just taken so much damage over the years that like at 45 they're like actually they're like 45, 50.
Yeah.
So like they're hurting for the rest of their life.
It would be funny if like they're just like, woohoo, we saved the day once again from another doomsday device, and then they just slip on a banana peel and die. Like cracks his head on a stair, and it's just like, oh shit, that's what took him out.
They're driving the car and they like hit the banana peel like in a Billy Madison, and just O'Doyle ruled.
Yeah, I like David Harbour. I'll watch him do anything. Yeah. And I loved his accent, even how silly it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sure like the people of Russia or whatever might be annoyed by this essentially being the only Russian accent that exists, because I believe there are tons.
Sure.
But at the same time, like, you know, for the sake of American movies, you know, they did a solid job, I thought.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, no one was like sounded totally ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean it's you got that Bullwinkle, moose and squirrel type of Russians. Like it's very thick. It was believable, and I'm just glad Scarlett Johansson didn't have a Russian accent.
Yeah,
it makes sense. She's defected. She's probably a master of languages. Oh yeah, we know she in Iron Man 2. She knows a bunch of languages and stuff. So I'm sure she would get her what's it called, diction down. I don't know.
Dictation?
No, diction is a speaking thing.
Right. Oh, I thought it was. That might have been.
No, dictation is you speak and I write it down.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Fair
enough. Anywho, okay. Anything else about Black Widow?
No, I don't think so.
All right. I watched a show. It's only about 4 episodes in. It's called Kevin Can Fuck Himself. Mm-hmm. It's a pretty fun show. It has the daughter from Schitt's Creek. I can't remember her name to save my life.
I've forgotten it as well.
Yeah. And she's married to like a Doug Heffernan, King of Queens type, who's just like a fat dude loser who's best friends with his neighbor, and his dad lives with them, and they're just like a wacky sitcom whenever they're all together. But the show's really good about every time she walks away from any of his wacky antics, it kind of cuts to a more realistic tone and it looks more like Breaking Bad. And it really shows how much of these sitcoms show comedy or show abuse as comedy. Of just like, there was an episode of King of Queens recently where he watched a movie about animal cruelty, so he started thinking he was like smart about everything and talking down to everybody who would eat meat, and then made his wife wear like a hemp dress to some big fancy meeting at her job where she was trying to like get a promotion or something, but it's like, oh, it's cruelty free, you have to wear this thing. It's like, that's a cruel fucking thing to do to your wife. She's just trying to have a job and you're making her go through this thing because you're an egomaniac. And the show does that pretty well. And so our lead decides she's going to kill her husband, make it look like an accident, drug overdose or something. And she's getting kind of in crazy adventures with her neighbor and people involving drugs and stuff. And, you know, just like a lot of shows where things spiral out of control.
Sure.
But every time, you know, her phone rings and she's in the real world talking, and then it cuts to him and it's very static 3-camera sitcom looking. It's so bizarre because you can see the things he's saying being quote unquote funny and having a laugh track, and then it cuts back to her and you could just see like how drained she is from dealing with this guy's bullshit. It's on AMC. Who knows if they'll stick the landing or if we'll get multiple seasons. I recommend it.
All right, fair enough. Maybe I should come up with some sort of like rating system, just like watch it, must see, pass, you know, that kind of thing. Maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I do my movies like, you know, F to A. 1 through 10 is good as well. But it's kind of hard when it's like I would give your next movie, Tomorrow War, a C+, but I also gave Black Widow a C+. But Black Widow is a much better movie. It's like in context of the Marvel Universe versus this new property that is just kind of a standard action sci-fi movie. And it's like, are they equal? No, absolutely not. But they both are kind of C+ movies.
Yeah. See, my problem is, like, I don't watch as many movies and stuff as you, and I'm not as critical as you, so I have a hard time, like, completely hating something, because typically if I believe I'll hate it, I'll actively avoid it. So it's like, I imagine, however long we go with the show, that you're going to see very few, like, D's in it. That being said, today is an exception. But, like, I try and enjoy things, so, like, I imagine a lot of my ratings would be, you know, B- or 7s or whatever, just like very middle of the road. Like, you know, obviously, like, there are plenty of movies that I think are like the great movies and I want to talk about. Yeah, like, if people listen to this and are expecting me to, like, they think I'm not being harsh enough, it's only because I don't waste my time, or I try to not to waste my time with dog crap unless I'm watching something with you, which, you know, or we specifically do it for the show. It's like, okay, I know this is bad, but I'll watch it.
And I'm the opposite, and I absolutely seek out dog shit movies. I love a bad movie. They're just so funny, and there are things that, like, if it's bad and it's boring, then yeah, I'll turn something like that off. I'll avoid it. But if it's entertaining and it's making me laugh when it's not trying to, I'll totally watch any bad movie.
All
right. What you got?
Last movie that I know you and I both saw was Tomorrow War.
Yeah.
What I respect about this movie is that it definitely felt like a movie that could have been made like in the late 90s, early 2000s. It definitely sort of like had that structure. Now, obviously, like, the CGI and effects wouldn't have been like anyways good, but it just felt like an action movie of, you know, a previous decade. But I think all the effects were good. Like, I like Chris Pratt a lot. I think you could have replaced Chris Pratt with just about anybody. He wasn't like his typical charismatic self in this. But, you know, I enjoyed it for the most part, but I'd say like probably like C-. There's some cool action scenes, but, well, I'll talk about the end with you, because I I have to discuss the end, but
Okay.
I'll get your thoughts first.
You mean, the ending after the movie has already rightfully ended and then keeps going?
Yes.
Oh my god. Both the endings. The ending where it should have ended is ridiculous, and then the even more ending is super dumb too. I didn't mind this movie. This is a epitome of turn your brain off and just look at the gun shooting, look at those crazy monsters, and watch people die. Unfortunately, it's not very bloody or anything like that, but the monsters are cool as shit, and it's a fun premise that makes absolutely no sense. And it's funny, even with Terminator, we have this problem. These things have killed most people on the planet, but we have time travel. It's okay, pack everybody up and send them into the past. Why are you fighting this war? Save the rest of the humans and stuff. Using time travel to recruit people to stop a war in the future is dumb. I mean, it's a good comment on the war industrial complex of just throwing bodies at a problem and letting them get chewed up in a meat grinder.
The Zap Brannigan strategy.
Yes, absolutely. And it's just you have time travel. Go back and learn. Teach us about where they first arrived, and let's investigate it. And now that you are working on this toxin that doesn't even mean anything, that toxin is bullshit, it's stupid, because it's it works on the men but not on the women. Okay, keep using it on the men. Keep killing all the boy monsters. They seem to be the ones you're fighting the most anyways. And it's you don't want them to be able to reproduce. I get that. Work on it and keep using this toxin.
And I assume that they're they never said there's only one female.
No.
There's less of them, sure.
Yeah.
But the whole movie makes it seem like every one of these monsters in a 300-mile radius is all just for this, and that's fine. But there's no mention of that. It just seems for the sake of plot, this one female is the one that everyone has to go to.
Yes.
It's you don't need to do it that way or whatever. I also find it surprising that it took them this long to capture a female.
Yeah.
In the future,
especially since they observe the Sabbath and they take a day off every week.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
But yeah, I mean, and I was hoping maybe there'd be some, because there's a supporting cast in this movie who I've seen in other stuff, who I have enjoyed. And I thought oh, maybe they'd this, maybe Chris Pratt's not great, but the supporting cast would really get to shine. And no one in this movie really shines at all. Even his daughter, I thought, okay, maybe she'll be this really badass character, but really she's just kind of there to just shout exposition. And yeah, I mean, she gets action scenes and stuff, is the emotional crux for Chris Pratt. But once again, she didn't even need to go back to get Chris Pratt. He didn't need to be the one to complete this mission,
because he's actually the worst person to complete the mission, because he's so hung up on I go to save my daughter and stuff like that he was willing to throw himself off the bridge with the potential cure for, or the savior of humanity, to grab her before they're both mauled to death. He wasn't able to bring her back in time, so why did he jump off that scaffolding into the pit?
Because this shot looked cool.
If he fell and he dropped the thing and he jumped for that would have made sense. But he's just I'm willing to throw this whole thing away just to touch you one more time. It's dumb. You're gonna go back and you're gonna save your daughter. This person you've known for a week. So stupid. Absolutely stupid.
A lot of weird choices. The weirdest of all choices, however, is the ending, or 2 endings. Actually, maybe even more 3. So he comes back to the past, and he has the present. Yes, thank you. And he has essentially the cure for these monsters for whenever they come. It's okay, so you have this one vial. I just imagine this is when you see them putting into weapons and weaponizing, and then maybe there'll be a quick scene of the monsters coming out, and then just carpet bombing these things with this spray, and then you just know that the day is saved, and that was going to be the end. It's just a quick wrap up because he got the thing that he was sent the whole movie to do to get, and he had it. But instead, there was an extra 20 minutes of just all right, how do we? Well, one, they figure out where they come from, which I don't know how any of all the smartest people on the planet didn't figure this out from the get go.
His wife just mentions it, and they're
yeah.
"Dude,
oh
yeah. Oh, really?"
It's amazing that this one singular family is the 3 saviors of humanity, because one person had a good idea, one person grows up to be a super genius, and one person is the doer. Yeah, it's the brains, the his wife's very pretty, but
yes,
it's just like the idea.
But she doesn't save the day like being sexy. She doesn't seduce one of the aliens and turns him to our
muscle,
side.
and then the friend, who's his wife. Anyway, but yeah, so they stupidly figure out like where these things have come from, and then they like only have a limited number of this file. Like there's no backup. Like they bring all of it, I think. Yeah. And so they find the ship where these things come from, and they start injecting it into these things and to like kill them, which like, all right, I get behind that. It's like taking them out before they can even, start the war or whatever. And then craziness ensues. They all start coming out, and then they just blow up the entire ship.
Yeah.
They could have done that from the get-go.
Yeah.
Which was just like, okay, so they like, they lose some people, whatever. They, the main characters are getting away, and they blow all of it up. And then but one queen gets away, and it's like, okay, so that could have been the end of the movie there. But then they have this hand-to-hand fight with this giant monster. Like Chris Pratt takes a talon that was like mentioned in the beginning of the movie, and they keep sort of cutting to, the Chekhov's talon or whatever, and he's like hand fighting this monster, and it's just like so stupid. And then J.K. Simmons, who I also want to talk about because this man is cut. Yeah. Holy God. Like when he first shows up at the beginning of this movie, I was like, did he actually work out for this movie, or is he
I
just
thought it was for Justice League.
Oh, maybe.
But he's in a trench coat the whole time in Justice League, so I don't get it.
Like he's wearing a tight black shirt, which I know like makes you look smaller anyway. But I mean, like it's like J.K. Simmons is like 60, and this dude is jacked, or at least appears to be. I was like, damn, like I want to get on that level. It was scary how muscular he was. Anyway, and then so they have this like father-son bonding moment, and just like they beat the monster, save the day or whatever, and the world's saved. But it was just one of those things where it's just like, why does this keep going on? And two, like you're really gonna have the final battle of this thing just be like a dumb hand-to-hand fight with Chris Pratt. It's so silly. And then you had the friend who like didn't have a jet ski. Like they drove like 4 miles away, and this guy somehow walked up in the time it took for him to fight. It was just a little weird thing. Mm-hmm. But that being said, as many problems as there are with this movie, it's still like if you just want to throw something on the background or just need time to kill, I'd say it's you won't be upset watching it unless you're really nitpicky. Like us.
Like us, yes. One thing I want to talk about the ending is, so they get this talon from a guy who has terminal cancer, who's been signing up to go back into the future for multiple tours, and he has taken a claw off one of the creatures as a souvenir. So then, after all is said and done, they look at the claw to kind of try to figure out where it came from, and they notice there's like volcano ash. So they talk to some high school kid about where it could be and blah blah blah. Okay, whatever. I don't care about that. What are the odds that one of the aliens that are in the ship that dig its way out once the ice starts melting and stuff, and gets that ash underneath its nail, survives that long, like 3 years later, after they're up out of the ground? It's about 3 years for them to kill everybody, and that alien is still alive. It didn't get killed off, because they're not invincible. They make them talk like, oh, you gotta kill him a certain way. It's like, yeah, you blow him up, you light him on fire, you shoot him. It's like, yeah, you could kill him. And this thing survived the whole time. Like, that is such a coincidence that he gets the claw from one of the very first aliens that are in that ship. Ridiculous.
Yeah. So you haven't been reading anything, correct?
I have not. No, I'm a big dum-dum.
Well, how many books do you think you read a year? Because I know you do the audiobooks a lot whenever you're like in the car. But
it's been a while, because once I started getting into certain podcasts, it's just like, oh, well, they have 400 episodes. Well, I'm just going to listen to those. And so then I put a book aside to listen to podcasts. So if you would count last year, probably one. If you counted the year before or the year before that, could have been like 15, because some books I get through pretty quickly, especially doing audiobooks, and I have a half-hour commute each way to my job. But recently, no, I haven't been reading books.
Gotcha. Well, this year I've decided to try and read a book a month, because previous years maybe 1 or 2 books a year, if I'm lucky. And I've been sticking with it pretty well. for the past 3 months, I read the Farseer Trilogy by Robin Hobb. It's a fantasy series about a young boy who is a bastard son of a prince, and he gets trained in the assassin arts, and then through the series he like learns that he actually has what's called the skill, which is essentially like kind of like telepathy and stuff like that. Like he can sort of, with the skill you can imprint ideas into people. If you're strong enough, you can make someone loyal to someone or hate someone just by like telling their mind to do that. You can talk to other people. Someone can invade your mind and like see through your eyes and that kind of stuff. And he also finds out he has something called the wit, which allows him to talk to animals. So he like bonds with a wolf pup, and then it's just like these two like sort of adapting each other's traits. And a lot of people think that the wit is sort of like this, not evil magic, but like bastard magic, where people shouldn't have it because then you become more beast than man, and some people don't like it. But anyway, he's got an uncle who is trying to get the throne, and it's just him like navigating the political aspects of trying to keep a relationship with his adopted father figure and this girl that he likes, while also like hiding all this stuff from them because no one knows he's an assassin other than like the king and the guy who's training him in the assassin ways. And it's the most fun I've had reading a trilogy in ever. It's really well written. I'm not an expert on books by any means, as I just said, I don't really read that much, but if you're into fantasy, it's real simple. It's not overcomplicated. The books are easily digestible. They're not Game of Thrones where it's thousands of pages long. Everything, the last book's I think 700 pages. Everything else is like 500 to 600. There is like 5 or 6 more trilogies in this same world. So highly recommend Farseer Trilogy. The ending is a little, the last book's a little frustrating, because I still really enjoyed it. Like if book 1 is A, book 2 is A+, this one's like B+, for the third one, only because the third one is like a lot of walking and then little sprinkles of action here and there, and then even more walking, and then they get to a place, and then it's, all right, we're staying here for like 10 chapters, and nothing's really happening with like little sprinkles of action, and then the finale just kind of like happens so fast, and then it's just like, basically like the last chapter is a montage of just like, here's how everything wraps up, where it's just like, it's all really cool, and it's all really well thought, and like calls back to other stuff, and like as a trilogy, it really, really works, and I could easily see it being a series, and like I would really love to see more of this world, so I'm gonna read more of the trilogies eventually. But
there's more than one trilogy?
Yeah, so the series is like the realm of the Elderlings. This was the very first trilogy, and I think there's like 5 or 6 more trilogies set in the same world. Sometimes the trilogies involve this main character, sometimes they involve just new characters, but they all take place in the same world. I don't know how long how expansive the years are. Like one could take place 200 years before, 200 years after. I really don't know. But I heard other trilogies are even better than this one, and I really, really enjoyed this one. So if you're into fantasy, I recommend the Farseer Trilogy.
Excellent.
But that's it for my reading. What have you been listening to?
Like I said earlier, I listen to podcasts more than anything, than music. I've never been a big music person, so that's not my wheelhouse.
Have you heard about the Rolling Stones? I hear they're pretty good.
Doesn't ring a bell.
Beatles at all, maybe?
Kind of familiar.
Hey Dude, I think is the song. No?
Hey Arnold? I know Hey Arnold.
That's a good show. Anyway.
So if I were to suggest a podcast, I would like to suggest mostly Nitpicking. It's 3 friends from college. It's Nando V Movies, who has a really great YouTube channel you should also check out. DJ Chapman and Chris Diggins, and they just kind of go through movies and nitpick shit, and it's right up my alley. It's pretty funny, and it's not like they work in the industry or anything, so they're not experts, but they seem to know their shit. So you could just Google mostly Nitpicking podcast and you'll find it, or Nando V Movies on YouTube. You should be able to find it as well.
All right. Well, I've been listening to a podcast called The Friendship Onion. And for anyone who's a fan of Lord of the Rings, like I am, Lord of the Rings is probably my favorite fandom of all time. I love talking about Lord of the Rings. The two hosts of the podcast are the two actors who played Merry and Pippin. And it's, every episode they talk about their experience on Lord of the Rings and just tell funny stories. Their chemistry between the two is so good. It's just, you're literally listening to two best friends and you can tell that they're best friends. And like I said, they talk about Lord of the Rings. They invite fans on and they do trivia and they'll give out like little dumb prizes here and there, like nothing too extravagant, but it's just like having these people who like grew up watching these folks and then kind of meeting your heroes and just doing Lord of the Rings trivia just seems like a lot of fun. And especially like if you know anything about Lord of the Rings, it's kind of fun to like play along. They also do a segment called Billy and Dom Eat the World, where they get submissions for food from somewhere that they from some other country, and they just try and then like rate it. And that's like a lot of fun to listen to because they do like weird categories. They have a category in like visual, like does it look appealing, and then they functionality, like could they use it in other things and stuff. And they just talk about anything and everything. And one episode they had Elijah Wood on just for 2 episodes and just talk to him. And so if you like Lord of the Rings and just hearing two people just have a good time talking about whatever, just like you are right now, then I suggest Friendship Onion for all your Lord of the Rings fandom.
Do they ever talk about The Hobbit?
I don't believe they ever talked about it in detail because Billy talks about how he got the gig doing the song for the last movie, but I think they are trying to avoid it a little bit. But like I said, those two weren't in those movies really, so they can't really tell stories about it.
Sure.
They can only say if they liked it or not, but I don't think they ever really do. So
okay. All right. So what have you been playing?
Well, first I'll say a game that I played but didn't complete because I played at a friend's house was Diablo 3. I've never played any Diablo games. I didn't know what Diablo was. I thought it started out as a PC game, I think, but we played on the Switch, and I liked it more than I thought. Basically, you pick you character select. You can be like a warrior or a paladin kind of thing, or like a wizard, and there's little different stats here and there. But basically, you are sent on a mission to essentially save the world from an evil force, and you just go around different maps and fight monsters. If you've ever played Gauntlet, I'd say it's a lot like Gauntlet, which I was a big fan of Gauntlet Dark Legacy back on like the GameCube. So even though I don't think the game is necessarily like that great, it brought a sense of nostalgia that I thought was really fun. And it's always cool to just be, a mighty warrior just taking down a bunch of enemies. We did play it on the easiest setting, so it was just so easy it was almost unfun because there wasn't really a challenge. But we weren't really playing to be challenged. We were just kind of like playing it to just kind of cruise through it and just kill time. If you're a fan of Gauntlet and just being a hero that smashes like 100 monsters a minute, then Diablo 3 might be worth it for you. Okay. And you can play with I think upwards of 4 friends, so you can all be on the same map, and it's very couch co-op like, I believe. Cool. So
yeah, I haven't been playing much of anything. I haven't bought any new games, and the free stuff for PlayStation has been garbage, but I did finish Days Gone. Can't say enough about how much I like that game, even though it is very repetitive, and it's just either like clear out this camp, go save this person, or stop this horde. It's like there's not a lot of variety to it. I had such a fun time doing all those things, and there was never really a mission I didn't love. Maybe chasing people on motorcycles wasn't great. Some of those were kind of hard. They would like take turns way better than I could, and and I would run out of bullets, and you can't get into your bag or anything. But Days Gone, if you like zombies and you like shooting things and taking cover and stealth kills and stuff, check it out. It's good stuff.
Yeah, I played that as well, and I enjoyed it more than I thought I was going to, because I feel like I remember seeing that the reviews weren't that great. It was, getting compared to The Last of Us a lot, and just like it doesn't quite, reach those highs or anything. But I actually had a great time playing it, and it's a shame that there won't be a sequel, because I think whatever I didn't like about that game could easily be, improved upon in a sequel, and I'd like to see what else they would do, especially if you see the, one of the secret endings that, I did see coming, but probably should have from the get-go.
Yeah.
Because it seemed pretty obvious in retrospect now. It's like, of course. But, yeah, definitely left room for some interesting stuff to happen in the future, but it looks like we'll never actually see that happen.
Unfortunately. So. If you could change the location, because in a sequel I don't want more mountains.
Yeah.
Where would you like to see it go?
Ooh, that's a good question. That's hard because, like, when it comes to zombie games, it feels like every location has been taken, and I'd either maybe, because this world was so wide out in the open, like maybe do kind of like a city thing, because I feel like a lot of zombie games typically avoid cities because one, visually they don't look that appealing.
Yeah.
Two, it just leaves everything really tight. But I think if you made it interesting and like had the whole world like really interactive in a city, like, and you could go into like every store or climb building, like that could be really cool. Obviously that would take a lot of processing power that probably doesn't exist, or if it did, your PlayStation probably couldn't handle it or whatever. If you could do a city right, that'd be cool, but I get why they actively avoid it. I don't know, maybe like, what's a country you never see in a video game? Because like a desert, there'd be no reason for a desert. I think there's been tons of zombies on island games, so I wouldn't want to see like zombies in Hawaii.
Tropical.
Yeah.
I mean, at first I thought of Vegas just because you can do city stuff. You have a different climate with the desert, but you don't get a lot of variety with that. Then I was thinking like, well, what about like New Orleans? So you could have city stuff, and then you could have swamps, and you can still have some forest, which there was a little bit of swampiness, but like it's not like there were gators or anything in it. Like, but I would like to take it out of that area. Just like they finally hit the road and decide to find something else and go somewhere. I don't need the same map.
Another thing that just kind of came to me is maybe if you did like a Brazil sort of like rainforest jungle kind of thing, like deep in the jungle, because I think you could add like a lot of animal things. Not necessarily that I want animals at the forefront, like every 10 seconds you're walking and like, oh, here comes a tiger out of nowhere or whatever, but like maybe you could like pick tree frogs up and they have poison on them, so you could like make poison arrows or something, or like, because you're walking through thick jungle, there could be like resting sort of zombie things that do jump out at you, or like people set up traps because it's just like so dense with like plants and everything. Like there's a lot of stuff you don't see, so you have to be careful, or you still have your motorcycle, but it's like a little bit harder to traverse through the jungle because maybe there isn't as many roads or whatever, but you can still go to like run down Brazilian or maybe you find like interesting looking huts and stuff, and you have to like burn these huts to distract guys and stuff. You could do maybe some really cool jungle stuff, and set up like jungle traps and basically be Rambo, but since I feel like Deacon St. John, even though I think that's a terrible name for
bad name.
Yeah,
you get used to it, but it's a bad name.
I don't know necessarily why he would like go down to Brazil unless he thought it was safe, and turns out it's not. But maybe something like that would be kind of cool. Yeah. I also played, I'll talk real quickly about Titanfall 2. It was, I think it was like on sale on the PlayStation Store for like $3 or something like that. So I was just like, all right, I'll try it out. And I actually heard reviews for it were pretty good. I know you're not a fan of first-person shooters. I'm not a big fan of first-person shooters. But if it's cheap and then the reviews are good, I might try it out. If you played any first-person shooter, it's essentially that. Like, it doesn't reinvent the wheel in any regards. Like, there is a mech component, so you do get to hop in this futuristic suit AI, and some of that weaponry is pretty cool. What I recommend it solely. I mean, it's a good all-around game, but there's a scene in this that I think might be one of my favorite video game sequences ever, just because it's so fun to do, and I wish the entire game was like, even though it would make the game probably way too easy, is there's a scene about midway through, maybe 3/4, where you get this device that basically lets you time travel, and you only get it for this one level, so you can be in the it sends you to the past, or you can jump back to the present. And so in the present, it's like this rundown building, everything's like destroyed and there's openings and stuff, There's like no power to the building, and then you jump back to the past where there's like humans walking around, and it's fun. There's like laser grids and stuff that you can't get through if you're in the past, but you jump back to the present, you can walk through it, and it'll teleport you back to the other side of that laser because it's teleporting you not only in time but in physical space. Okay. There's some puzzle solving with that. It's not hard puzzle solving. Like, you pretty much get it. Like, okay, there's this thing that's blocking me. Jump back, walk through it, jump back again. You're there. Yeah. But the action sequence in it is so fun because like there's a guy in front of you. And he's about to shoot you. You can you can jump to the present. He's not there. You run around and then jump back to the present. Now you're behind him, and then just shoot him that way. Nice. And it's like basically playing the Nightcrawler sequence from X-Men 2. Awesome. And it is so fun. I highly recommend it just for that bit. It's so cool, and it just made me think, like, why can't there be a game like this? And maybe there is, I just don't know about it. But it's a really fun action sequence, and I would like to see more of it. And the rest of the game is pretty fun too, and storyline's solid. I mean, just bad mercenaries or whatever trying to do a bad thing, and you're there stopping them. But yeah, and your mech suit partner, he's actually pretty fun. Very much like a I don't know, various sci-fi android who I can't think of, who have always been like a fun sidekick partner in movies like that. So yeah, Titanfall 2. All right. And the last game I beat was A Plague's Tale. I believe it's Plague's Tale Innocence, I think is the full title. I don't remember. But also, it's not the most fun game to play. It's not very combat heavy. It's mostly like sneaking around and stuff. There's a little bit of a fantasy element to it because you're this boy who, spoiler alert, can like sort of control these rats during the Black Plague. And it's mostly like puzzle solving and just like getting past guards and stuff. But it's a visually cool game, and it's relatively quick. I wouldn't go out and spend, I don't know how much it is right now. I wouldn't pay the full price of the game, but I had a good time, more than I thought I was going to, because I tried playing it before, and for the first, I think I played the demo, and I was like, if this is the whole game, I don't know if I can get into it. But as I kept playing, I got more invested in the story, and I was like, okay, this is better than I thought. And now there's a sequel coming out, so I might check that out as well.
Cool. All right, now that brings us to our main topic, Space Jam: A New Legacy, starring LeBron James.
The Looney Tunes are back in action,
but not Looney Tunes back in action with Brendan Fraser and Jenna Elfman, which I've never seen, but I've actually heard people say that's the better of the two. Like, Space Jam is just like goofy nonsense movie, and Looney Tunes back in action is a better movie, but I never saw it.
Yeah, I never saw it either. And, there was a period in time where everyone kind of hated Brendan Fraser, and I think I love the Mummy movies, but I was kind of like, he just made a bunch of bad movies. I was like, all right, well, I don't need to see Looney Tunes back in action. But recently I have heard that movie's actually not that bad, so I still won't watch it, though.
Yeah, I do not care. All right, so this movie has been kind of in the works for a long time. Michael Jordan never wanted to come back for a sequel and always said pass it off to someone else, which they were planning to do. They had a couple of spin-offs, a golf one, a skateboarding one, and a race car one, which all would have been fantastically fun. You just do the same story with a different sport. That's one of the things that hurts this movie the most, is that they rely on basketball as being the main thing. So what did you think of Space Jam: New Legacy?
I did not like it.
Same.
I don't think that's going to be a controversial opinion. No. I'll say this, though. I was, I believe, 7 when the first Space Jam came out. I've grown up with the first Space Jam. I like that movie. That being said, as an adult, I recognize that movie is not good either. I think that the jokes maybe worked a little bit better in the first Space Jam. I think throwing in Bill Murray randomly is like,
out of nowhere. Hey, I just showed up in Toontown. Hey!
I thought his bit was like kind of fun. I think he played well with the tunes. seeing LeBron in a Trainwreck, I thought, like, okay, like, he's not necessarily a great actor in this, but, like, he's funny. He's funny. So I thought, like, okay, maybe LeBron can outact Michael. But in this, I think I don't want to say he's worse, but he's certainly not a good actor.
No.
Like, now, do I think it should stop him from doing more movies? No, like, I'd be fine seeing LeBron and other stuff. But this just wasn't in his wheelhouse, which is weird for being a movie involving basketball, which would probably be himself, which would probably be the main wheelhouse. Like, there are certain actors out there, like Pete Davidson, who said, like, I'm good at playing me, I'm bad at playing characters. Where it's just like, I don't know, maybe LeBron would be better at playing a character than himself, which, but maybe not. I don't know.
And it's weird that he's playing himself, but, like, that's not his wife. That's not his kid.
No, it's the same for Michael Jordan.
But it's the same with Michael Jordan. It's just such a bizarre thing, like, to use a real person and then just give him a fake life. I don't know. I guess, his wife and his real kids aren't real actors and stuff, so...
I'm sure they all have school, and his son is, like, on his way to the NBA anyway.
Yeah.
So...
but, yeah, that's a little bizarre. I think... the biggest problem with LeBron in this movie is he's not a very nice character, and it's hard to root for him. It's like, I think his son is kind of in the right for a lot of it, and he's just kind of a bully and a bad dad, and kind of like, oh, your other brother is so much better than you, why don't you be more like him? Oh, you follow your dreams, except when that dream is something you want to do and not the thing I want you to do. It's he's not very nice.
I mean, I would agree. It was kind of like hard to root for LeBron when, like, not necessarily he was a bad dad, but he just, like, didn't get behind his son's dream. Especially, like, I can believe that a father wants his sons to follow in his footsteps because it's given him so much and all that stuff, and especially, like, being, the top of one of the best athletes today, and then just have him go, like, well, you need to live up to, like, my legacy, or, like, don't do the... It's like, your son is 12 years old and he built a system that, like, scans people's faces. Like, the level of intellect that this kid seemed to have but never really showed was also really weird. But it's like, I think I have a hard time believing that LeBron would be like, no, games are dumb. Like, it's cool that you like this, but, like, throw the ball around. Yeah. It's like, come on.
Someone threw away my Game Boy that I had for a day. So video games are bad. Because if it wasn't for that coach, I wouldn't have been who I'm at. And it's just very weak.
Yeah, especially from someone who learns from, like, a team aspect. Like, LeBron might be the leader and might take charge and tell people, like, what to do because, he's a winner. But I feel like especially when he's had multiple kids and, the life he's lived, I have a hard time believing that he, like, would be so anti a bunch of stuff and really only... But I don't know. But I'm glad you brought up the Game Boy because I wanted to ask you this. The system that his kid was playing, which was handheld, and it had, like, Wii, like, WEE, is that, like, a real system that they're trying to push, or was that just made up to sort of, like, reference the Nintendo Wii or something? I never saw that system before.
I didn't notice the writing, so I didn't catch that. I just assumed it was, like, a mobile game.
I mean, I could be wrong. It just looked like a... sort of like almost like a Switch that I've never seen before, and I just wasn't sure if that was like some new product because this movie pushed products.
but no new products really. It's besides itself being a new movie, everything was more nostalgia instead of come by this new thing. It's just like, hey, you remember King Kong? You remember Iron Giant? These things you already saw in Ready Player One. Let's look at them again. And they only have so much content to put in, like, okay, Gremlins, that makes sense, but The Nun, and frickin' Pennywise, and the dudes from Clockwork Orange, I get Batman and stuff, but, like, really? These rapists? You're gonna put them in Space Jam just cheering from the crowd?
Yeah, honestly, I think my biggest complaint for this movie is I didn't understand who this movie was for.
Yes.
Because it's clearly a kids movie. It's got kids level just about everything. But most of the properties that were referenced in this movie were made before I think most of the kids in this age group would have seen. And that's fine if you want to make, like, references to adult things and, adult jokes and stuff. Like, I preferred having those things in a movie. But when the core audience, who I think wanted to see this movie, were, kids when they saw the first one, and now they're adults. It's like, okay, it makes sense to put adult things in it, but like all the adult stuff you put in it just didn't make any real sense.
Yeah.
And like back to the Clockwork Orange thing, I saw online, it's funny that they took Pepe Le Pew out because he was like a sexual harasser, but you had the droogs in here who like literally raped people in the movie.
Sure, and I guess
just like have them in the back like cheering for LeBron.
Yeah, and clearly they don't do anything like that in the movie. They are just spectating, whereas Pepe Le Pew did have a scene where it was like Casablanca or something, and he's doing his normal rapey thing. So I get that, but don't have either.
Yeah.
And also, speaking of like weird characters, when you have like the Roadrunner, and he's like classic fast character, that's good for a basketball team. But then you also have Speedy Gonzalez. Like Speedy, was he in the original Space Jam? I don't remember. Like I know Granny wasn't, but
he might have been. But I feel like it was one of those. He was always on the bench, or because he played like one bit and then he got squished by a ball or something. Maybe I really, it's been a long time since I've seen Space Jam.
It's just very weird that they chose two Speedy characters. And they had the Big Red Monster in it, and it's like, I like the Big Red Monster, but is that even his full name? Like, is his name like Greg the Big Red Monster or something? Like, is there more to it?
I really don't know much about Looney Tunes. It's weird that Looney Tunes has been around as long as they have, and like everyone has theoretically grown up with them, but at the same time, like some people, I haven't really watched a lot of Looney Tunes growing up,
and it's just like when you have great characters like Taz. Like Taz has always been one of my favorites, and I like Wile E. Coyote. But then you have terrible characters like Elmer Fudd and Speedy Gonzalez and Granny. Just these characters that are completely unnecessary. I mean, and I don't like Porky Pig either, but we'll get to him. It's just, I don't care about the Toon Squad. I like Bugs, but I didn't like this Bugs. There wasn't anything fun about him. I love Daffy Duck, but this Daffy Duck doesn't play. He's just being the manager, and nobody really shines except for maybe Wile E. Coyote. He actually has some fun bits. I would say the only good, but it still made me roll my eyes, was being in the Mad Max world.
Yeah.
And in seeing Wile E. Coyote spray paint his mouth and hold up a sign that says "Witness Me" was very funny.
Yeah.
And being in a desert, being about speed, it all made sense.
Yeah.
But when you have Speedy Gonzalez and Granny in The Matrix, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah. Well, back to the Mad Max. I think the one scene that I actually enjoyed, I was like, okay, I like that this is in this movie, is that like recruitment scene where they go to the different worlds. Like I think that's a fun bit. I think seeing the cast like played against Sam, and it was Sam on the piano and stuff. Like I think all that worked for me, and I really liked it. It was just, and the only other joke that I also liked was not that it necessarily like made me cackle or anything, but I like the Rick and Morty references.
Yeah,
like
that was out of nowhere.
I didn't expect that, and it definitely fit in with their world as well as this one. But yeah, I'm it's just like it tried to do what a lot of sequels do, where it's like, okay, we're gonna have essentially the same movie, but now it's about video games and rap, and which like both things I enjoy, but when you have a kids movie, like I don't know if there's a single kids movie that exists with like a rap scene that is good.
Yes.
And because it just comes off as like cringy and trying too hard and trying to appeal to an audience that like you don't need to appeal to because they're already here. I don't know.
Yeah, that scene was so out of nowhere. Like, why? And I don't get it. But I will say, I thought that scene was going to be the one that made my skin crawl the most. Because I didn't, like, I saw that it existed online, but I wasn't going to watch it. Because if I was going to watch this movie, I only want to see that scene once. But it actually wasn't as bad as I expected. There are some rhymes in his rap that I think are pretty clever. I could not say which ones. Yeah. But it wasn't as bad as I expected.
Yeah. I agree. I think I went into it expecting the worst, and then once it was over, I was like, okay, the scene's still kind of dumb, but the rap itself isn't terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that they took their time with that one. But yeah, I mean, I also don't remember in the first one if like the basketball, like I feel like the first one, like there was so much more basketball.
Yes.
Like obviously there was antics with like the Monstars and doing silly stuff, and like they did this in this one, of course. But I just think like with the CGI and stuff, like the Goon Squad wasn't as visual appealing, which like it should have been, because they were like these interesting looking like monsters, and like one guy was half water half fire and stuff. Like I think he could have done some really cool stuff with that, and they just weren't all that appealing to me. And I feel like the villains in the first movie also like had character, like all the little monsters who even had like little cameos, like they all had like individual personalities, where like these guys really didn't. It was just like sort of like LeBron bringing his friends in and kind of going like, oh, look at you one eyebrow weirdo or whatever. But
they were more aesthetics and looks than actual characters.
And like the idea of style points, I guess, is like fun, because it is sort of once again like leaning into the video game world, but at the same time it's just like, how do you have stakes when there's like really no traction of like points or whatever? It's just like, okay, they did a thing and now they're like tied or whatever. It's just, so that all was really weird and just didn't feel like there was a lot of basketball. And if you're gonna do, it's called Space Jam, it's all about basketball, or Looney Tunes basketball, and you just had so little of it. Like I wasn't invested in the game at all, and I don't know, I was hoping for a little bit more. What I will say, I thought Don Cheadle was great. I think he had a lot of fun. I think he acted terrifically in this, and like really, out there, but never like over the top. I felt like he just felt like he was just having so much fun being in this movie, and I never believed that he was just here. I mean, I'm sure he was here for the paycheck, but he didn't like just phone it in. Like he really, I think, did a great job, and I want to commend Don Cheadle for Space Jam 2, because I think he was the highlight of this whole thing, because I think all the stuff he did, even if his stuff wasn't necessarily funny, I thought he just worked in general. And I like the name Algae Rhythm, even though like I hate that like the villain of this movie is a fucking computer algorithm.
Yeah. So I think that one of the main problems with this movie is its focus. It's trying to do too much at once, which is obvious, but like the so much special effects just blasting around and so many people in the audience. It's just like, it's nauseating at times. It's just too much to look at. And so it's like, we want to do Space Jam again. A famous basketball player with the Looney Tunes fighting some evil team. Okay, you could have done that exactly like before, but then they also want to tie in all their movie catalog, and it's like, oh, we can hop into these movies and look at where all these characters are doing a funny Matrix and stuff. But then it also wants to have video games in it as well, and you can't have all three. You kind of have to pick two. It's like basketball in video games or basketball in movies. So you can do the basketball video game thing, and it's in a virtual world and stuff like that, and it would be closer to what that movie is already. Or you do basketball in movies, where you do get to hop through different properties, and maybe that's who the team is.
And I think that would have made the movie much more interesting.
Yeah,
you have Harry Potter teamed up with LeBron, and also Godzilla's in the team or something.
Absolutely,
like, it'd be the Lego movie, but like a little bit more real world realized. I'm not saying like Daniel Radcliffe would do it, but can you imagine like if you had Daniel Radcliffe like with
reprising his role?
Yeah, as Harry Potter, just to like play basketball for some dumb reason.
And even if it wasn't on the good guy side, you could have the bad guy. He gets all these people and either controls them or makes them believe they're doing the right thing or whatever. And you can just like go, okay, so we're going to have like 3 gremlins in a trench coat. That'd be kind of funny to see them running around, and you could have King Kong, and it's just like, oh, that's, kind of unfair, but they'd have a ton of properties, and that would be really fun. Instead of just throwing them into the background, make them the villains. Because, and one thing, why did the Looney Tunes leave Toon World and go to other movie properties? What was their justification for that?
If I remember correctly, Algae Rhythm basically, I think, convinced them that they had no use anymore. So without something to like hold on to, they went into other universes to try and like find their own thing. It was very thin, and I think it was a plot point that I just blanked out over. It's like, okay, they just broke up. But like, that's the other thing. It's just like, you have Bugs. Like, this whole movie is essentially about family. And I don't really remember what the crux of the first Space Jam was. It was just like Michael Jordan leaving basketball and doing like baseball and stuff. And it's like, well, Michael, you're a basketball player. And it was all, I guess, about him like accepting like, yeah, basketball's my thing. Even though he goes back to play baseball at the end, I guess. But like, this whole thing was about family, and like Bugs lost his family. LeBron is like struggling to keep his family or his son together and stuff. It's like, there really should have been like Bugs having some really hard time getting these guys back, or like maybe they're all mad at Bugs because Bugs like wanted to keep things the same and they wanted to do different jokes or something like that. And it's just like, nope, Bugs just like, hey guys, I need you to do this thing. Okay, cool. They came back, and then, you know, and then you have that scene at the end where Bugs like does the final shot that makes him glitch, and he's like, oh, Bugs is gonna die. And it's like, oh, that should have been this like really sad, like heart-wrenching thing where like all the Toons are crying because like their leader, their main guy, he's gonna be gone forever. And at the end it's just like, nope, I'm a cartoon, I don't die. It's like, well then it really ruined that. It's like, it should have been, you know, maybe LeBron's like turns to his son, it's like, son, like Bugs is gone, like, you know, we need you. And then he does some weird hacker techno mumbo jumbo and like brings Bugs back, and Bugs is like,
fix my glitch.
Yeah. And then even if it's like a little tag at the end, and then you see Bugs kind of hopping around, it's like, it could have been a, you know, it could have worked a little bit better than just like, nope, I'm fine.
Yeah, I'm a cartoon. I told you earlier. It was set up, so it works.
Yeah. So that was a little disappointing. It's just, it tried to replicate the magic of if there necessarily was magic in the first one, and just tried throwing everything at the wall, and pretty much none of it landing.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one, I don't know if it's an F, but it's definitely in the D category.
I'm giving it an F. I think it really has no redeeming qualities. It has no focus on who it's for, and it is just a cash in because it's a known property that they get to throw all their other known properties into.
Well, 3 other things I want to talk about real quick. One, I guess, well, one of them might take a while, but one, the background actors like just reacting to the basketball game, who were all dressed up as like characters, was jarring. Like, my focus was always on them, which took me away from the movie. But 2, all the like costumes looked horrendous. Yeah, like they look, I don't want to say fan made because there's fans who make some really impressive stuff, but it was just like, I don't know, it just was so odd looking at, you know, the Night King, but it was just like a dude in like a mask, it seemed like. Yeah. And then there was a Mr. Freeze guy who was like overacting like crazy, like his mouth was open the entire time. Like, I don't know what they did with these people. It was so weird to look at.
Yeah, and then seeing the nun cheering in the background and Pennywise cheering, like, these are like murder monsters.
That clown would eat LeBron's son in a second. Like, that might be a funny scene if it was just like, you know, he tried to, but the force field was there or something. But it would be a weird choice for that movie. So yeah, those guys were really hard to look at. 2, and this is just an eye roll moment for me because like I hate product placement in movies. Like, sometimes it works. Like, everyone knows the Wayne's World stuff works because it's like actively making fun of it. The stuff in Community works because they're actively making fun of it. Like, LeBron falling from the sky and landing and making a Nike logo in the ground frustrated me to no end, because it's just like, I get it, like, that's his brand, that's where his shoes are made and stuff. It's like, ha, fine. It bugged me to like see it, like, when it's just so blatantly in your face. Just but all right.
So would you recommend anybody should watch this movie ever for any reason?
No, because I don't think that there's, I mean, kids are very easy to please. I think if you put it on for a kid, the kid's not going to have a bad time. But at the same time, I don't think any kids are really going to love this movie. I don't think it's going to have I could be wrong, but I don't think it's going to have the childhood impact that the first Space Jam did. Because that movie also came out at the height of like Michael Jordan. And like the night, like basketball was the sport. Michael Jordan was the athlete. And it was just like, it all like made sense. Where like, yeah, LeBron's super popular. Basketball's pretty popular, but like Looney Tunes haven't been popular in a while. Like this is all just for nostalgia, and it just like it just doesn't work. So I don't think adults will have a good time. I don't think kids will care ultimately. So after talking to you in this 10 minutes, I think it's going to be an F, actually. Because, like, even though I wouldn't say it's unwatchable by any means, I just think, like, it doesn't serve any real purpose.
Yep.
The only thing that would make it a D- maybe is Don Cheadle, who like I said, I actually liked in this movie. Everything else is, not well acted, and none of it made sense, and just,
What if that was the movie of the algorithm is trying to find what people like and getting rid of all the things people don't like, and the Looney Tunes have not been, bankable, so in his algorithm he needs to get rid of them. So maybe the algorithm is hunting the Looney Tunes to delete them, and that's why they're hopping from movie to movie. It's like, well, maybe we'll be safe in here because we're not going to delete The Matrix, we're not going to delete Harry Potter. So then they have to go into each movie, and it would be fun to see. I don't know if you play it like they're in the background and the actors don't notice, or if you actually reshoot some scenes so the scenes play out differently because now the Looney Tunes have gotten into it. I think they're dead set on making these basketball movies. It doesn't really work for me because I don't care about sports, but doing something different and wanting to milk your other properties, that makes sense. And then, because the Looney Tunes are showing up in all these other movies, then their popularity rises, and then the algorithm sees like, oh, well, I can't delete you now, you're profitable. And it would be kind of a fun meta commentary on the studio industry. But just another, we got to play basketball where you get 1,000,000 points and use crazy gadgets from Acme to replicate balls and stuff like that.
But quick note about the studio thing. I think it's funny that these studio heads brought in LeBron and to just go like, oh, LeBron, we're going to put you in a bunch of stuff. And just like, of all the people, you want LeBron in like all your other properties? Like, oh, LeBron, you can be in Game of Thrones, you can be in this. It's like, look, like, LeBron's great. I have nothing against LeBron, but like, that's the guy you want to like digitally or whatever put into your other stuff. It's like, why? He's not an actor.
Yeah.
And it's like, he's popular, but he's not, no one's like, oh, you're going to go see the new LeBron movie?
Yeah.
Like, that it doesn't...
But it's like he has a built-in millions and millions of fans, so...
Sure.
But yeah, that was an actual episode of 30 Rock where it was like Seinfeld vision, and they were able to put Seinfeld in a bunch of stuff, and watching this movie, it's like, wow, this is like a 10-year-old bit from another show.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I believe studios' heads would come up with like dumb ideas like that for sure, and I like that he was like, LeBron this is stupid, but it just seems like a weird pitch for someone. It's like, here's all these things that already exist, now we're just gonna add LeBron to it. It's like not some dead actor who you can like digitally put in, or not some like high profile actor like, oh, we're gonna throw in Jennifer Lawrence into Game of Thrones. It's like, okay, people might tune in to see Jennifer Lawrence on a Game of Thrones, but it's like, nope, we're gonna have LeBron on there. No offense to Mr. LeBron.
Yeah. And when they're playing basketball, they're kind of in like, I don't know if that's video game world or whatever. Where was that being?
They were playing in the
Warner
Brothers universe.
Okay.
But yeah, I think they did land in Toon World.
Okay.
And they 3D'd it all, I think.
Yeah. And so then they're all 3D. And like, okay, LeBron goes to Toon World, he turns into a cartoon. But then when they go into the basketball game, he turns back into a human, they turn 3D. And then...
Well, they're 2D first, and then
then they turn 3D.
Yeah.
And then they win, and they turn back to 2D. And then when Bugs is in the real world, which I don't know how that happens...
well, he got into the real world to recruit Michael Jordan, so why couldn't he get into...
Yeah, but this is... it's not set up at all in this movie.
Sure.
Because they live on a server. They don't live in the center of the planet, because that's where they lived in Space Jam, is in the center of the Earth.
Yeah.
Cartoons were living things in the Earth, and now these are computer programs.
I think this is like the least important part of
this
discussion.
But it's just weird that he's in the real world and he doesn't look 3D. He's 2D. When he's in Toon World, he should be 2D. When he's in the real world, he should be 3D.
Fair. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's all I have to say about Space Jam.
Yeah. So, would you watch another one of these? Another basketball, another Looney Tunes have to fight for their lives. Oh, yeah, and the algorithm is all like, oh, and if I win, I'm going to delete the tunes. Why? Why is he so vindictive against them? He's just like, you're going to be trapped here forever, and I'm going to kill them. Like, why? There was no reason for him to be so evil.
I mean, there was really no reason for him to do anything. Like, this whole, like, evil arc is, oh, LeBron was mean to me.
Yeah, and I want
didn't
people
know
to
I existed.
notice. Yeah.
So now I'm gonna shove it in his face.
Yeah, well, if you could control things, like, go live on TV and execute the tunes on TV, you'll get known then.
Yeah.
But it's weird that, like, they suck human beings into the server to watch it. Movie's an absolute mess.
Yeah, it was, like, you could have had the same level of, like, yeah, like, LeBron couldn't have, like, immediately talked to his wife or whatever, but, like, everyone, like, watching on their phone would have worked just fine. But, like, you could have had his kids go, like, go, Dad, go, and, like, being really, they didn't need to be there, because even when they were there, they didn't really add anything to it.
Yeah.
And then you had, like, the bit where the wife was just like, go kick his butt, or I don't know what she says, but it's just, like, it just all seemed, like, real hokey and stuff. I don't know. Yeah, that whole part was, and, like, and that's another thing that just happens in kids' movies, where it's just like, here's this fantastical piece of technology, and, like, no one's talking about it. Everyone's just like, whoa, what a crazy situation we're in. I was like, no, you're not going to go like, oh, wow, I'm in Toon World. You're going to go like, what the hell's happening? How do I get out of here? Like, this is scary. Like, no one's going to be like, yeah, LeBron, let's go. But I don't know.
Yeah.
No, a big old mess, this one.
Yes, and a big F. Do not watch it, even though if you have HBO Max, there's no reason to watch this. HBO Max has been kind of not killing it when it comes to these same-day releases. I think the only one that I gave any shit about, well, I mean, I did like Justice League, but it'd be Kong versus Godzilla. It's the only one that was fun, and I watched multiple times. I mean, I was super hyped for Mortal Kombat, and could not care less about that movie.
Yeah, it's been I mean, I guess if you're going to release stuff on your platform that you were intending to release in theaters, like, if they're not going to make you as much money, they might as well be the ones that aren't that good, maybe? Sure. I don't know. Okay. Because I don't think anyone's, like, buying... I don't know. I don't know. So, I'm not a studio head.
So, a couple years ago... Steve and I like to do little movie games. One of our favorites is, like, he picks a movie, I pick a movie, and we try to make a mashup of those two movies where you would always see this movie is like this meets that. It's like Godfather meets The Wizard of Oz, and it's just like, well, what the fuck kind of movie would that be? And so we do a lot of different movie games, and somehow... Steve had the brilliant idea of a Space Jam sequel, and it's a damn shame that they didn't go this route, because it would have been topical, not topical, it would be... Timely.
Yeah.
I was going to say timeless, and like, no, that wouldn't work either. Timely, follows a similar format, and would have made... $1 bazillion. I think it could have made more than the original Space Jam, because it's not like Space Jam made a ton of money. It just kind of became a cult following.
Hear that, studios? Hire me. I'm your idea guy.
So I'm going to turn it over to Steve, and you're going to pitch the Space Jam sequel that should have been.
All right. So my pitch for Space Jam 2 would have been called Space Slam, and this movie probably would have come out in the early 2000s. When wrestling, I think, was at a new, like, all-time high, thanks to people like Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock. And
it was the Attitude Era.
The Attitude Era, yeah. And so, essentially, the movie would have really opened up with, let's say, some, security guard at NASA, or just, like, somebody working at NASA, they're working on some like new satellite that'll reach out to space because after Space Jam they're like, okay, there's alien life out there, like we need to get in contact and all that stuff, and we need to be better prepared. And on a monitor like next to him, he's just like happens to be a real big wrestling fan. You see The Rock, and he's like talking about being like the people's champion, and he's like, I'm the greatest of all time, like I'll take on anyone, that kind of stuff. And then somehow through movie mumbo jumbo he spills a soda, I don't really know. Basically that transmission gets sent off into space through this like new high-tech satellite that would shoot out. And so there's some great alien race who hears this message, some great warrior, and he's like, oh, well, I'm the greatest warrior in the universe. I'm going to meet this Rock. And, obviously this guy doesn't realize that this transmission isn't real. It's a wrestling show. So he believes that Earth has the mightiest warrior, and it's Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. So he's like, my mission is to go and take this guy on. So he travels to Earth and to face this guy, but somehow the Looney Tunes get involved.
Yeah, I don't remember
exactly how I set this up. We haven't talked about this really in years, but so they run into the Looney Tunes, and he's like, I'm here to destroy the Earth. Are you guys, warriors or something like that? And Bugs being Bugs is like, oh, I'm gonna, punk this guy or whatever. And so he tries to like pick a fight with this guy and uses like, pulling hammers out or whatever, doing Toon stuff. And the guy's just like basically tells like Bugs like, I'm gonna kill all of you and bring me Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. And so the Toons are just like, oh, he's gonna kill us all unless we go get The Rock. So they go recruit The Rock, and hilarity ensues. And then so they set up this Rock, is like, all right, man, I'll fight you, but you're gonna do it my way. And he's like, I'll fight you however you want. And so they set up a wrestling ring, and then The Rock trains the Toons, and this warrior maybe has a crew with him and stuff, and it's just like, all right, well, this is how we do it on Earth. And so this guy now has to fight The Rock and the Looney Tunes in Space Slam. And that is essentially the movie where you have, the biggest star of the time, the wrestling star at that time, fighting this guy in order to save the Earth. So it's very much the similar premise, and I think would make sense. It's something different, but it wouldn't be scary to the studios, and at the time it would have to me it all makes sense, I think. But it's the movie that'll never be, because now as we all know, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is the biggest star on the planet. I don't think he would have any desire, especially after this movie, to do another Looney Tunes movie.
And we're past the era of like probably the most recognizable wrestlers, whereas there are very popular wrestlers now, but you could have held up a picture of Stone Cold Steve Austin and non-wrestling fans would know who that is, whereas now you show up a picture of, I don't know, The Miz, and a lot of people are going to be just like, I don't know who that person is.
Yeah. And I think what also works with wrestling in that time is like it was huge with kids, but also huge with adults. Like I think it wrestling, like, it was bloodier than it is today and everything, like, but plenty of kids still watch it. I think it'd be hard to do now, because I think you certainly can't get away with the wrestling that you did back then as you do now. I mean, you could, but they just choose not to.
There would be no blood or anything, but because you're wrestling Toons, think of all the crazy moves and flips and stuff you can do, and how you can, The Rock's doing his like people's elbow and it can grow in size or whatever, you know. I do think instead of the villain having a crew, like it's The Rock saying you have to fight me and my friends. He needs his own friends. And since the first one they were like monsters and just having another alien crew or whatever, it should be robots. And I think those robots would do the same thing that the Monstars do, is go find The Undertaker, Stone Cold, Triple H, and I don't know, Big Show or something like that, and they like scan them, and they don't have to steal their power, so then those guys are weak, but they, their robotness can like change and be in the form, so we get to see The Rock fight these robot versions and the Toons fighting these robot versions.
Yeah, something along those lines. Well, I was gonna say, if I imagine they would scan other wrestlers because they believe that these guys are the pinnacle of like human warriors. But I think it'd be in a Bill Murray-esque Space Jam cameo. The Rock is losing the fight, and then who comes out? None other than his greatest rival, Stone Cold, and he comes in and he's Stone Cold stuttering everything, and then it becomes like this team up bit at the end where it's like Stone Cold and Rock teaming up, these rivals to take down the guys in order to save the planet, and then he's like, all right, I'll see you in the ring next Sunday or whatever, and then just walks off and whatever, and then Bugs, I'm sure, will get like some sort of he'll be the one to like land and get the win with the pin or something like that. There's a lot you could do with it, but I think it lends itself to plenty of antics, plenty of references to the wrestling world, plenty of wrestling characters who could make cameos and stuff without overstaying their welcome. Because I think a lot of the comedy that worked in the first Space Jam was watching these grown dudes not being able to play basketball. Like they just literally didn't know how to shoot anymore, and like going to the hospital and getting checked out and all that stuff. I think you could do similar stuff with that.
Yeah, it would be kind of fun if at the beginning of the movie, The Rock and Stone Cold have this huge rivalry, and then The Rock has to leave to go help the Tunes, and nobody knows where he's at. So Stone Cold's making like big speeches and stuff. Oh, he chickened out and blah blah blah. Well, he better show up next Sunday because it's WrestleMania or whatever. And then if they did steal the powers of other wrestlers, WrestleMania is going to be happening at the same time as this Tune thing. So then you have these wrestlers like, I don't think I could go out. I'm not feeling myself. And you have the Big Show, who's this massive guy, and he can't even pick up like Rey Mysterio or something like that.
Yeah.
And I think that would be really funny. And then Stone Cold gets sick of it, actually goes to the center of the earth or wherever they're having the match, and it's just like, can we finish this so we can go have a fight, and then you end it with them.
And no disrespect to athletes, but athletes are athletes. They're not typically good actors. Where like wrestlers, they're athletes, but they're
supposed to act.
They're entertainers.
They have a character to sell.
Not saying that they would all be like great actors, but I think that it would be easier for them to jump into this world and like sell the jokes and sell the bits and stuff because they were playing a character 4 times a week or whatever.
They already know who they are, and they just have to do it for a different medium.
Yeah. So
all the different cage matches and table matches and some crazy fun stuff. And I think it'd be maybe kind of hard pairing up like, well, who fights who? What's a good, like, who does Daffy Duck fight? I don't know. Who does Taz fight? I don't know.
Yeah.
But like if it was more of a Royal Rumble type thing, and you got to get them over the top rope to eliminate them, and then it gets down to the final 2. That may work better instead of having individual fights.
Yeah. Yeah. That aspect would have to work out. But I could see the bit where Daffy Duck takes a steel chair and he like slams it over the Rock's head or whatever, and then there's the face is like perfectly there. Or, here's Tweety Bird, who's like the tiny little thing, and of course, and they kind of did in the first Space Jam, but it's like this time she has to fight some big hulking thing. It's like, well, how is she going to do that? And then, Tune antics happen, and it's like, oh, she's actually like the best fighter on the team somehow, There's plenty of stuff.
You do a thing where like Sylvester can't even help himself, so Tweety's flying all around the wrestler, and Sylvester's running up and like kicking the guy in the face and scratching him and stuff, going into his clothes and making him laugh, and then he falls out of the ring and he's eliminated. Stuff like that.
Oh yeah, that works. So, yeah, Space Slam coming out summer 2002.
2002. Yeah, that would have been a good year.
Yeah. Catch it in theaters then.
And it would be like starring
universe.
The Rock, because he wasn't Dwayne Johnson at that time.
And I think that was like just before. I think Scorpion King was 2003.
Okay.
So that could have been like his first real jump into the acting world.
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe it would have been a hard sell because he's never led a movie where Scorpion King was kind of a small role. Or not Scorpion King, I'm sorry, Mummy Returns.
Yeah.
And then that led to Scorpion King. But you really could have, that could have been the start of what was inevitable going to be like the great Rock.
But it would have had a much stronger start.
Yeah. No, maybe he wouldn't have had to do Tooth Fairy and the game plan and stuff.
Escape from Witch Mountain.
Yeah, because he already did this, kids movie before. I mean, not that any choices he's made has been bad because he's literally made him the biggest movie star in the world. But I think it would have been fun thing to see at the time, something different, but still safe for the studios.
Yeah.
But
well, what will never be. Now we'll get Space Jam 3 with, I don't even know.
LeBron's son, Bronny Jr.
If they're going to do another one, I think you got to wait another 15 years or 20 years, however long it was. And then because then he'll be retired and there'll be another superstar. And just
I think that might have been the way to go 15, 20 years ago, but it's hard for franchises, it seems, to die now. So we might see. If the best case scenario, I think, will be a different sport or different activity. But I think if for the Looney Tunes, what's best for them is to avoid sports stuff and maybe just do a Looney Tunes movie 2D that isn't trying to be new and hip. It's just here's classic Looney Tunes.
Yeah. No, I want to see Bugs Bunny flossing. I want to see Granny doing like an embarrassing TikTok. I need it modern. I don't care if they were around in 1933. I need to see them doing modern stuff. Otherwise, I will not be tuning in.
Tuning in.
That's a good spot to end.
All right.
All right. Well, thanks for listening. If you'd like to get in contact with us, we are at WRPL Podcast on Twitter or WRPL Podcast at gmail.com.